Today's episode is brought to you by Security Financial Management.
Ooh, welcome back to Best Advice Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Rob Lavalio. Here, as always, with Dave Allen and Mitchell Allen. We got the father-son duo again today, boys. Ooh, what's crackalackin'?
All right, crackalackin' is what we're going to do today. And today, we're going to talk about kind of back to the basics. And it's one of the fundamentals of our opinion of our business is really having a good financial plan.
We start each episode with some positive energy. We like to call this, give me something good. Dave, give me something good.
Give me something good.
You could just, and I know it's hard for many of you, to skip your Starbucks or at least minimize your Starbucks and save $5 a day. But if you skip that Starbucks, think about that. That's $5 to $7 to $8, right?
And it sounds like that feels like it won't do anything, right? $5 doesn't seem like much.
It doesn't
right?
seem like
Seems,
much. So, Rob,
like change.
What is the statistics? Just give the little simple
So here,
math.
it's a little example of just like what planning, the strength of planning can actually do for someone. And we can sit here and say $5 is
consistency
nothing. Consistency is
compound
huge.
interest as
and
well.
Compound interest, who Albert Einstein said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it, right? So we're talking about $5. How much is Starbucks if you go there right now?
About $8.
$8, literally. If it's a medium coffee, it's $8, right?
Yeah.
Brutal.
So I'm 32. So if I'm 30,
So maybe go to Dunkin' Donuts and get a cheaper one.
yeah, and get a $2 one. You got the $5 right here.
There
Right?
There you go.
And here we are. We're talking about $5, right? Because the example we're going to give you is if you're 30 years old and you have and you can invest $5 a day until you're 67.
Yeah, and Rob,
birthday,
just say it's in an S&P 500
invest
fund.
in the S&P 500.
Yeah, S&P 500, and it's going to take the average of the S&P
And this
500.
is just based on statistics average of a lifetime of the S&P, pretty
Right.
much, right? Yeah.
Right.
So if you just invested this in $5 a day from your 30th birthday to 67, which 67 is when you retire,
Social
right?
Security pretty much kicks
Social
on.
Security kicks in. You would have only invested, $67,000 and $570. But by the time you hit 67, do you know what that $67,000
Rob, how much is that, Rob?
It is $864,030.
So much you can't even
Almost
say
$1 million.
Have you lost your mind?
No,
Yeah.
it is. It's amazing. And people think, oh, $5, what's that going to do to me? But if you take $5 a day, just $5 a day, we blow $5 a day, right?
Dude, planning and consistency, it's crazy what compound interest does.
I mean, in the old days, a pack of cigarettes was $5. Now what are they? $20?
it's like you can't get a Gatorade. You get a Gatorade, it's like $4.29, and then by the time
Right.
you get the taxes, it's like, all right, $5.02. It's
Give
like,
something up.
dude, just one little thing.
Yeah, just
One
give
thing a
one
day.
little
thing,
thing a
and you're
day.
good.
And look what that does. And that's a 30-year-old. I mean, the longer you wait to procrastinate, the lower that number gets. But it's
crazy.
still good.
Time is
Anyway,
key. The earlier you start, the easier it's going to be for you in the end of the day. So
It is. and
start
that's
early,
why-
take advantage of compound interest, dollar cost average, and you'll make your life a lot easier.
And it's funny because you see all these things on the internet. It's like, don't kick the can down the road here, right? Like, we really mean that. Like, people blow it off all the time, but you can't kick. Years is everything. Years is
wanna
everything
kick
with
that can.
investing.
Yeah, the longer you wait, the harder it gets
Mm-hmm.
and $5 when you're 50 is not going to do anything
Mm-hmm.
for you. You've got 50 to. I mean, it's going to do something for you, but nothing.
It's gonna do
because
nothing that's
you
gonna
got
last.
that compound interest. You got your money working for you, not just your deposits.
As J. Cole would say, shout out J. Cole, is the best part of making this cake is licking the frosting.
Who's J. Cole? Rob?
The best part of making this cake is licking the
The
frosting.
best part of making the cake is licking the frosting at the end.
Stock market is gangster.
We'll stop right there.
Yeah, we're going to cut it off right there.
Wait, we'll stop you, Rob.
All right, let's get to the
Thanks, J. Cole.
question of the day. Today's question comes from Bill from Gainesville. Bill, what you got for us?
You want to say something?
All right, guys. Bill says, I'm 40 years old, have 2 young kids, and it's time to get serious about financial planning. Can you play it live? What does the process look like if I start an investing plan with SFM?
Thank you, Bill. All right, guys, please take this over for me.
Bill, the best part of our business is actually, or the main part of our business, is preparing a financial plan for somebody. And what does that mean? It's a big, broad word. People think financial planning is just saving. It's not just saving. Basically, when somebody comes into Security Financial,
This is how you answer a door in my neighborhood.
we look at them as a blank page. They're just We don't know anything about you. We assume we know a little bit about you, but we're going to start from scratch, have the blank page, and we're going to talk first. We're going to really get to know you. We're going to learn your personality, because your personality is very critical to the way you invest. There's some people that we need to understand if you're aggressive. We understand if you're conservative. If you have a bunch of people in your ear, I call it the golf course planning, where you invest in everything everybody's talking about on the golf course. That's almost a guaranteed loss. Because
That's so funny. I've never heard that term. It's
oh,
so
yeah.
true.
A lot of deals are made on the golf course, good and bad. And many times there's a lot of good advice. It's kind of like when somebody's talking about gambling.
It's the electrician who read one article on Forbes and now is an investor.
Absolutely. Or the guy
He's an expert.
Or the guy that's telling you about how he won at gambling.
Yeah.
When he went to the casino.
Yeah.
He didn't tell you about how much he lost.
Ask him about Thursday night. Yeah.
There's a lot of testosterone flowing around out there, as far as boys are concerned. But so we start with a blank page. We ask you all the questions. We learn about you. We learn about your family. And then we look at this process. It helps us as well as it helps you, because if we don't know who you are, we can't adequately help you.
You're not Dr. Stewart.
No. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Mitch and I refer to it as a financial EKG. Like when you go to the doctor and you think you want to start going to the gym or running or doing, triathlon. Well, they're going to do an EKG on you to make sure you can do this. And that's what we do, is we're going to do this report that's going to say, can you do what you want to do? So, Mitch, why don't you take off from here and tell us a little bit about the process.
Yeah, so when a client sits down in front of us, we like to look at the quantitative data. Obviously, what are your assets worth? How's your portfolio invested? What's your tax bracket, all that good stuff. But what's really important is the qualitative data. What's your risk tolerance? What are your concerns? What are your goals? So we basically have to ask all the questions to learn, everything about your.
Mean?
So quantitative is more like talks about your value of any certain asset. It's more of a numbers based.
Pulling like the peels back a little bit and like who you really are.
Yeah, it's kind of more like what you
it.
have, the money side, the numbers, anything that has a value, you can assign. That's quantitative data. Qualitative data is more like who you are as a person. What's your life experience? How has that brought you? How has your life experience shaped your risk tolerance? How has
how's your health?
How's your health? How does that affect?
That's big.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything considered, we really take everything into mind, and we create a custom financial plan. As they say, garbage in, garbage out. If the data we put in there is not correct or accurate, or it doesn't represent you as a person, then what we're getting out of it is not going to help. So we really take our time in looking
Mitch, is not everybody's the same either. So
no, absolutely, yeah. So everything we do is completely custom. We make the plan to fit your individual circumstance, and we will create basically a full action plan that hits on investments, risk analysis, insurance, estate planning. Anything that acts or talks like money, we're going to address it in our action plan. So it really does allow us to learn a lot about the client through this process, and that's why we start with the financial planning conversation. So I really think that, advisors who are not starting with that conversation are putting themselves behind.
I agree. I totally agree. You're really not getting to know your client, and
Agreed.
That's probably the most important thing, is know the client.
And that's where I feel like I know people or clients who've walked in here have felt like a number somewhere else's, and I'm not going to use names of other companies or anything, but that's where you feel like a number, right? Or
Absolutely.
just like number client XXXY.
Definitely. He had talked about how it's kind of a financial EKG, and so what we do is we put all this data in the plan. We project a rate of return that's probably undershooting what we would expect over the long run on purpose to kind of stress test your portfolio. We probably assign an inflation rate that's probably a little higher than it would be on average, basically to give you an idea on, if the market performed very average and inflation was a little higher, would you be okay?
Yeah.
And in a lot of circumstances, that gives our clients a lot of comfort to know that even in a bad scenario like that, they'd be okay. So,
yeah, like Mitch said, we're going to look at what your goals are. And there's a difference between needs and wants. Your need is what you absolutely just need to live. We want to know what you want. I mean, of course, if your need is greater than your want, you need to concentrate on your need and then maybe back your goals down. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be really honest with you, And one thing we're going to say is that anybody that's a listener of this show, we would welcome a no-cost consultation. If you want to know a little bit more about your circumstances, we have a number of advisors across the board, from younger to older, grayer to browner hair, female to male. We have bilingual.
That's what's really cool about SFM too. Is I walk around and you'll see a client. There's always multiple advisors in there, whether someone's a specialist in tax planning or someone's specialist in the trust, whether
Medicare.
Exactly. So whatever that client's going through, I always see our specialist in X with the advisor, right? So it's really cool that it's a team approach, and you don't see that at places, which is cool.
Rob, that's exactly right. We do work as a team. So a client that is a client is also our friend, and they also have a number of people. I have a number of people that are not even that have worked with me over the years, or now they call Mitch or they call Lori. I think they like Lori way better than me. She's more fun and nice.
Lori's nice. She's so nice.
Lori's a nice one.
She's really nice.
She's awesome.
and she laughs at everything they say. No, I'm just kidding. No, Lori is one of the most helpful ladies that you'll ever work with.
Yeah, I've never met someone who doesn't like Lori.
Right.
If you don't like Lori, I don't like you.
If you don't like Loris, you don't like puppies and babies.
Yeah. So true.
So again, as Dave said, we're offering the free initial consultation to any of our listeners. And I, as an advisor, I can't stress goal-based financial planning enough. You got to start the conversation at some point. So if this is of interest to you, please reach out. Call our office at 407-740-6553 or reach out in the link below.
Thank you, Bill. Remember, folks, the secret to wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep. Happy days, everybody.
This podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only and is not intended as personal financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please do your own research and consult a financial advisor as needed. If you have a question for the guys, email podcast@bestadvicepodcastguys.com.